Montana rancher orders bride, but she's running from dangerous secret that changes everything. If you've ever wondered what it was like when desperate men in the Old West ordered brides through newspaper ads, and what happened when those brides arrived with secrets that could destroy everything, then this story is for you. Hit that like button if you enjoy Western romance, and don't forget to subscribe for more tales of love and redemption on the frontier. Let's saddle up for today's story. The autumn wind swept across the Montana plains like a lonely ghost, rustling through the tall grass that stretched endlessly toward the mountains. Jake Morrison stood on the porch of his ranch house, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of copper and gold. His weathered hands gripped the letter that had arrived 3 weeks ago, now soft from repeated reading. The words were elegant, written in a feminine hand that spoke of education and refinement. Sarah Hamilton from Boston, a school teacher seeking a new life in the West. Her photograph showed a young woman with gentle eyes and dark hair pulled back in a modest style. She looked kind. That mattered more than beauty to Jake, though she possessed that too. 3 small faces pressed against the window behind him. Emma, 7 years old with pigtails that never stayed neat. Thomas, 5 and missing his 2 front teeth. Little Mary, barely 3, still clutching the rag doll her mother had made before the fever took her. 2 years. It had been 2 years since Martha died, leaving Jake with 3 children and a ranch that demanded 18-hour days. The house had grown cold without a woman's touch. Dust gathered in corners Martha never would have tolerated. The children's clothes hung loose where buttons had fallen off and never been replaced. Mrs. Patterson from the neighboring ranch helped when she could, but she had her own family to tend. The children needed more than occasional kindness from neighbors. They needed a mother. Jake needed a partner, not for love. He'd had that with Martha, and once was enough for any man. But for practical purposes, for survival, for giving his children the life they deserved. The advertisement had been simple. Rancher with 3 children seeks respectable woman for marriage. Must be kind, patient, and willing to work hard. Good home provided. Jake had posted it in 3 Eastern newspapers, hoping for perhaps 1 or 2 responses. He'd received 17. Most were dismissed immediately. Too young, too old, clearly desperate for money, rather than seeking a genuine partnership. But Sarah's letter had been different. She wrote about her love of teaching, her desire to help shape young minds. She mentioned losing her parents to cholera, understanding what it meant for children to face loss. She didn't promise love, but she offered dedication, partnership, and care for his children. The stage would arrive tomorrow. Sarah would be on it, having traveled 2,000 miles to marry a man she'd never met. Jake's stomach tightened at the thought. What if she took one look at the ranch, at him, at the endless isolation, and demanded to return immediately? What if the children didn't accept her? What if she was nothing like her letter suggested? He walked back inside where Emma was attempting to braid Mary's hair while Thomas built towers with kindling by the fireplace. The kitchen still smelled of the burnt biscuits from Jake's failed attempt at breakfast. Tomorrow, God willing, there would be someone who actually knew how to cook. Emma looked up with eyes so like her mother's it made Jake's chest ache. Is she really coming, Papa? Tomorrow, sweetheart. What if she doesn't like us? Jake knelt beside his daughter, his large hand gentle on her small shoulder. Then she'd be a fool, wouldn't she? Who wouldn't love the 3 finest children in all of Montana? Thomas abandoned his kindling construction. Will she make pie? Mrs. Patterson makes pie. I don't know, son. We'll have to wait and see. Mary toddled over, raising her arms to be lifted. Jake scooped her up, feeling the familiar weight of responsibility. These 3 souls depended on him entirely. He'd fought through blizzards, drought, and cattle thieves to keep this ranch running. But finding them a mother felt like the hardest battle yet. That night, Jake barely slept. He rose before dawn, heating water for a bath, and trimming his beard with more care than he'd shown in months. He put on his best shirt, the one reserved for church and trips to town. The children were dressed in their Sunday clothes, faces scrubbed, pink hair combed flat with water that would dry and spring back to its usual chaos within the hour. The ride to town took 2 hours in the wagon. Mary sat on Jake's lap, playing with the buttons on his vest. Emma and Thomas whispered in the back, their excitement barely contained. The main street of Cedar Ridge was busy for a Tuesday. Word had spread that Jake Morrison's mail-order bride was arriving. Such events provided entertainment in a town where the most exciting occurrence was usually a Saturday night fistfight at the saloon. Jake pulled the wagon up outside the stage depot. Mr. Henderson, who ran the general store, tipped his hat. "Big day, Morrison." "Indeed it is." Mrs. Appleby from the boarding house bustled over, her curiosity barely concealed behind a veneer of Christian concern. "How wonderful that those dear children will have a mother again. Though mail-order brides, well, one never knows what one might get." Jake's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice level. "I'm sure Miss Hamilton will be a fine addition to our family." The stage was late. It was always late, but today each minute stretched like an hour. The children grew restless. Thomas found a stick and began poking at anthills. Emma tried to keep Mary entertained with a string game. Jake stood like a statue, eyes fixed on the horizon, where the road disappeared into a cluster of cottonwoods. Then the sound of horses and wheels. The stage appeared dust cloud, announcing its arrival long before it reached the depot. Jake's heart hammered against his ribs. He placed a protective hand on Emma's shoulder, drawing his children close. The driver, Big Pete Wallace, climbed down from his perch, stretching his back with a groan. "Got your package, Morrison," he called out with a grin that showed 3 gold teeth. The stage door opened. First came an elderly couple, the man helping his wife navigate the steep step, then a traveling salesman with cases of goods. And then, she was smaller than her photograph suggested. The dark hair was the same, pulled back in a practical bun beneath a simple brown bonnet. But something was different. The woman who stepped onto the dusty street wasn't looking around with the expected nervousness of a bride meeting her husband. Her eyes, green as spring grass, darted everywhere with the watchfulness of a hunted animal. She wore a modest gray traveling dress, well made but showing signs of hard wear. Her single carpet bag seemed too small for someone starting a new life. When her gaze finally found Jake, he saw something flicker across her face. Late we were both. Jake stepped forward, removing his hat. "Miss Hamilton." She hesitated for just a moment, then lifted her chin. "Mr. Morrison, yes, I'm Sarah Hamilton." Something in the way she said her own name, as if testing its fit, sent a whisper of unease down Jake's spine. But the children were pressing forward, and there was no time for doubt. "These are my children, Emma, Thomas, and Mary." Sarah's face transformed when she looked at them. The wariness melted into genuine warmth. She knelt, bringing herself to their eye level, her skirts pooling in the dust. "Hello, I've been so eager to meet you all. Your father's letters told me so much about you." Emma, usually shy with strangers, stepped forward. "Are you really going to be our mama?" Sarah's eyes flicked to Jake, then back to the child. "I'm going to try my very best to take care of you." "Would that be all right?" Thomas, ever practical, asked, "Can you make pie?" For the first time, Sarah smiled, and it changed her entire face. "Apple, cherry, and peach, though peach might be hard to come by in Montana." "I like apple," Thomas decided, apparently satisfied with this credential. Mary, thumb firmly in her mouth, studied Sarah with the intense scrutiny only a 3-year-old could manage. Then, without warning, she reached out and touched Sarah's cheek. Sarah remained perfectly still, allowing the child's exploration. "Soft," Mary pronounced, and everyone laughed, breaking the tension. Jake loaded Sarah's meager belongings onto the wagon. "Is this everything?" "I travel light," she said, but again, something in her voice suggested more than simple frugality. The ride back to the ranch was filled with the children's chatter. They pointed out landmarks, told Sarah about their favorite places, competed for her attention. She responded to each with patience and interest, but Jake noticed how she kept glancing behind them as if expecting to see someone following. When the ranch house came into view, Sarah fell silent. It wasn't much to look at, Jake knew. A 2-story log structure with a stone chimney, solid but lacking any ornamental touches. The barn was bigger than the house because cattle were the priority. A small vegetable garden, neglected since Martha's death, struggled along one side. "It's perfect," Sarah said quietly, and Jake couldn't tell if she meant it or was simply being polite. Inside, Sarah surveyed the chaos with a practical eye. Dishes piled in the dry sink, laundry overflowing from baskets, toys scattered across every surface. Martha's sewing basket still sat by her chair untouched for 2 years, gathering dust like a shrine. "I'll need a day or two to set things right," Sarah said, already rolling up her sleeves. "Emma, would you like to help me? We'll start with the kitchen." The wedding was scheduled for Sunday, 4 days away. Reverend Thompson would come to the ranch after church services. It would be simple, just family and a few neighbors as witnesses. Jake had explained this in his letters, and Sarah had agreed. Neither of them needed fancy ceremonies. That first evening, Sarah prepared a simple but satisfying meal. Venison stew with vegetables from the root cellar biscuits that were actually edible, and yes, an apple pie made from the dried apples she found in the pantry. The children ate with enthusiasm they hadn't shown for meals in months. After dinner, Sarah helped ready the children for bed. She knew a story about a brave princess that had them hanging on every word. When Mary fell asleep in her lap, Sarah carried her to bed with practiced ease. Jake and Sarah finally found themselves alone on the porch, the night air cool and filled with the sound of crickets. This was the moment for the conversation they'd both been avoiding. "I should tell you," Jake began. "I'm not looking for a love match. Martha, my wife, she was. Well, that part of my life is done. I need a partner, someone to help with the children and the house. You'll have your own room, of course. I want to be clear about expectations." Sarah nodded, seeming relieved rather than disappointed. "I understand completely. I'm not. I'm looking for a fresh start, Mr. Morrison. A place where I can be useful, where I can matter. Love is a luxury I don't require." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Sarah spoke again. "Your children are wonderful. You've done well with them considering they're good kids. They deserve better than a father who burns biscuits and can't sew on a button. Every child deserves a parent who tries. That's what you've been doing." Jake studied her profile in the moonlight. There was something she wasn't telling him, something that made her jump at sudden noises and check the windows before settling in a room. But everyone had secrets out here. The West was built by people running from something or towards something. As long as she was good to his children, the rest was her business. The next days fell into a routine. Sarah attacked the house with military efficiency, but also with touches of warmth Jake hadn't expected. She hung curtains made from fabric she'd brought in her bag. She organized the children's clothes, mending what could be saved. She started teaching Emma to cook, giving the girl responsibility that made her stand taller. Thomas followed Sarah everywhere when he wasn't helping Jake with chores. She taught him his letters while they worked, turning everything into a lesson. Mary had decided Sarah's lap was her personal throne and would climb up whenever Sarah sat down. But at night, Jake would hear Sarah pacing in her room. Once he caught her staring out the window at the road, her knuckles white as she gripped the sill. When she noticed him watching, she forced a smile and made an excuse about admiring the stars. Saturday afternoon, the day before the wedding, Jake was in the barn when he heard horses approaching. Multiple horses riding fast. His hand instinctively went to the rifle mounted on the wall. 3 riders appeared on the horizon, their horses lathered with sweat from hard riding. Jake didn't recognize them, but something in their bearing set his nerves on edge. These weren't cowboys looking for work or neighbors paying a social call. These men had the look of trouble. The lead rider was well-dressed, too well-dressed for the Montana territory. His black suit was Eastern, cut, his boots polished to a shine that had no business in ranch country. He was perhaps 40, with steel gray hair and eyes like chips of winter ice. The 2 men flanking him were hired muscle, no doubt about it. They wore their guns low and tied down, the mark of men who used them for more than shooting rattlesnakes. Jake stepped out of the barn, rifle casual in his hands but ready. "Afternoon, gentlemen. Something I can help you with?" The well-dressed man dismounted with practiced ease. "Mr. Morrison, I presume. My name is Charles Blackwood. I believe you have something that belongs to me." "Can't imagine what that might be, Mr. Blackwood. This is my land, my cattle, my property. Unless one of my steers wandered onto your range, though, I don't recall any Blackwoods in these parts." Blackwood's smile was as cold as his eyes. "Not something, Mr. Morrison. Someone. A young woman, dark hair, green eyes, goes by the name Sarah Hamilton, though that's not her real name." Jake kept his expression neutral, though his grip on the rifle tightened. "Don't know anyone by that description." "Come now, Mr. Morrison. The whole town knows you've got a mail-order bride arriving. The stage driver was quite chatty about the pretty young woman he delivered to you 3 days ago." Before Jake could respond, the house door opened. Sarah stepped onto the porch, and even from a distance, Jake could see the color drain from her face. But she walked forward, her chin raised, her stride steady. "Hello, Charles," she said, her voice carrying across the yard. Blackwood's smile widened. "Catherine, my dear fiancée, You've led me on quite a chase. Catherine, not Sarah. Jake felt the ground shift beneath his feet, but he kept his rifle ready, his position between the men and the woman he'd planned to marry tomorrow. I'm not your fiancée, Sarah, Catherine had said firmly. I never agreed to marry you. Your father agreed. He signed the contracts, took my money. That makes you mine. My father had no right to sell me like cattle. Legal documents say otherwise. Blackwood pulled a folded paper from his coat. Marriage contract signed and witnessed. Your father owed me $30,000, Catherine. You were the collateral. Jake finally spoke. This is Montana territory, Mr. Blackwood. Your Eastern contracts don't mean much out here. Blackwood's eyes never left Catherine's face. Perhaps not, but theft is theft anywhere. She took something when she left. Something valuable that belongs to me. I took nothing that wasn't mine, Catherine said. Your mother's jewelry. The jewelry your father used as additional collateral, I think the law would see that differently. Jake saw Catherine's shoulders tense, so there was truth mixed with the lies. This got more complicated by the minute. Emma's voice called from the house. Miss Sarah, is everything all right? Go back inside, Emma, Jake called, not taking his eyes off the visitors. Take your brother and sister to the kitchen. But Emma, brave little Emma, who was too much like her mother, stepped onto the porch. Miss Sarah looked scared, Papa. Blackwood's attention shifted to the child, and something in his expression made Jake's blood run cold. Well, you've been playing House Catherine. How domestic. Leave the children out of this, Catherine said, moving to place herself between Blackwood and the porch. Children need a mother, and when we're married, as we will be, they'll need a governess. I have business interests in Montana. Perhaps Mr. Morrison would be willing to sell his ranch. It would make a convenient base of operations. The threat was subtle but clear. Blackwood wasn't just here for Catherine. He'd destroy anything and anyone in his path. Jake chambered a round in his rifle, the sound sharp in the tense air. Mr. Blackwood, I'm going to ask you to leave my property. Now. The two hired men shifted hands, moving toward their guns. Jake didn't flinch. No need for violence, Mr. Morrison, Blackwood said smoothly. I'm a reasonable man. Catherine, come with me now. Return what you took, and I'll forget this unfortunate episode. No one needs to get hurt. I'd rather die, Catherine said quietly. That can be arranged, one of the hired men muttered, earning a sharp look from Blackwood. Now, let's not be dramatic. Blackwood stepped closer and Jake moved to block him. Mr. Morrison, you seem like an intelligent man. Do you really want to involve yourself in this? You have children to think about. Accidents happen on ranches. Fires start. Cattle disappear. Children wander off and get lost. The threat against his children snapped something in Jake. He raised the rifle, pointing it directly at Blackwood's chest. Get off my land. Don't come back. Don't send your men. Don't come near my family or this woman again. Blackwood studied him for a long moment. You're making a mistake, Morrison. I have resources you can't imagine. Legal resources, financial resources, other resources. And I have neighbors who don't take kindly to outsiders threatening families. Sheriff Tucker is a personal friend. The Cattlemen's Association doesn't appreciate Eastern money trying to muscle in. You might have power where you come from, but out here you're just another problem to be solved. The standoff stretched taut as barbed wire. Finally, Blackwood stepped back. This isn't over, Catherine. You know I don't give up what's mine. He mounted his horse with the same practiced ease, his men following suit. 3 days, Morrison. I'll give you 3 days to come to your senses. After that, well, I'll have to pursue other options. They rode off, dust swirling in their wake. Jake didn't lower the rifle until they were specks on the horizon. Catherine, he couldn't think of her as Sarah anymore, sank onto the porch steps, her composure finally cracking. Emma ran to her, wrapping small arms around her shoulders. Don't cry, Miss Sarah. Papa won't let the bad men hurt you. Jake set the rifle aside and approached slowly. Catherine, she looked up, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant to bring danger to your door. I thought I'd run far enough. Emma, go inside. Watch your brother and sister. For once, Emma obeyed without argument. Jake sat on the steps, careful to leave space between himself and the woman he thought he knew. Tell me everything, the truth this time. Catherine wiped her eyes with a handkerchief pulled from her sleeve. My name is Catherine Hamilton. That part wasn't a complete lie. My father was Theodore Hamilton of Hamilton Shipping. Or he was until he gambled everything away. The business, the house, everything. He owed money to everyone but Charles Blackwood, most of all. She paused, gathering strength. Charles offered a solution. Marriage to me would clear the debts and give him entry into Boston society. My father agreed without consulting me. The marriage contract was signed before I even knew about it. So you ran? Not immediately. I tried to reason with my father with Charles, but he's not just a businessman. There are rumors about his first wife. She died under mysterious circumstances. His second wife is in an asylum. He told me if I didn't comply, he'd have me declared mentally incompetent and committed too. Jake felt a chill despite the warm afternoon. The jewelry was my mother's, left to me, not my father, but he'd already promised it to Charles as part of the arrangement. I took it when I left. Sold most of it to pay for passage west to start a new life. I have a few pieces left hidden. She looked at him with desperate eyes. I answered your advertisement honestly, except for my first name. I am a teacher. I did lose my parents, my mother to illness. My father might as well be dead to me. I genuinely wanted to help with your children to build something real here. But you brought danger to my door, to my children. I know, I'll leave. Tonight, I'll take a horse ride to the next town, catch a stage going anywhere. Charles will follow me, leave you alone. Jake stood pacing to the edge of the porch. The sun was setting, painting the sky blood red. His children were inside, probably pressed against the windows watching. They'd already lost one mother. Now they'd lose another, along with their safety and peace. But sending Catherine away wouldn't solve anything. Blackwood had already made threats. He'd marked the ranch, the children. Men like that didn't forget. Where would you go? Jake asked finally. I don't know. California maybe? Oregon, somewhere. And Blackwood would follow. Probably. Until you're cornered with nowhere left to run. Catherine stood, squaring her shoulders. That's my problem, not yours. Jake turned to face her. In the dying light, she looked fragile but determined. He thought about Martha, how she'd faced down a rabid wolf to protect Emma when she was just a baby. Courage came in many forms. We're getting married tomorrow, he said. Catherine's eyes widened. Jake, no, you don't understand what you're risking. I understand plenty. A married woman has protections a single woman doesn't. Blackwood can wave his contracts around, but they're for Catherine Hamilton's spinster. Tomorrow you'll be Catherine Morrison wife. That changes the legal ground. He won't care about legal niceties. Maybe not, but Sheriff Tucker will. So will Judge Harper. And every rancher in 50 miles will stand with me if outsiders try to force their way in. That's how it works out here. We protect our own. Your children need a mother. They've already taken to you. Emma looks at you like you hung the moon. Thomas actually ate vegetables at dinner. Mary hasn't let go of that doll, but she let go of it to hold your hand. Catherine was crying again silently. I don't deserve this kindness. Maybe not, but my children deserve a chance at a real family. And despite everything, I think you're the woman to give them that. Jake walked past her toward the house, then stopped. Your things, the jewelry you have left. We'll put it in the bank in town, under your married name. Blackwood can't touch it there. And Catherine, my first wife's name was Martha Catherine. We'll tell folks we're calling you by your middle name to honor her. Sarah was a nickname. People will accept that. Inside, 3 small faces were indeed pressed against the window. Jake opened the door to find them scrambling back, trying to look innocent. Is Miss Sarah staying? Emma asked in a small voice. Yes, if that's all right with you 3. Thomas and Emma cheered. Mary just toddled over to Catherine as she entered and raised her arms to be held. That evening, after the children were asleep, Jake and Catherine sat at the kitchen table planning. Blackwood will come back, Catherine said. Let him, we'll be ready. You don't know what he's capable of. I know what I'm capable of when someone threatens my family. Jake's voice was quiet but firm. I fought in the war, Catherine. I've defended this ranch from claim jumpers, rustlers, and worse. Blackwood thinks he's dangerous because he has money and hired guns. But this is my land, my territory. He's playing by rules that don't apply here. Catherine studied his face. You're not the simple rancher you pretend to be. And you're not the helpless Eastern lady you appeared to be when you stepped off that stage. We both have our secrets, but tomorrow we stand together for the children if nothing else. For the children, she agreed. They spent the next hour going over plans. Jake would send word to his neighbors, the other ranchers who'd face similar threats from Eastern money trying to buy up land. Catherine would hide the remaining jewelry to night, keeping it safe until they could get to the bank Monday. As Catherine rose to go to her room, she paused. Jake, what you're doing, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of it. Just be good to my children. That's all I ask. But even as he said it, Jake knew it wasn't entirely true. Something about this woman, even with her lies and dangers, stirred feelings he'd thought dead with Martha. It was inconvenient, dangerous even, but undeniable. Sunday dawned clear and bright, one of those perfect autumn days that made the Montana sky look endless. Jake rose early, did his chores, and tried to ignore the knot in his stomach. It wasn't fear of Blackwood. He'd dealt with dangerous men before. It was the weight of what he was about to do, binding himself to a woman he'd known less than a week, a woman who'd lied about her very name. Catherine had the children ready in their Sunday best, their faces shining with excitement. She wore a simple blue dress she'd apparently saved for the occasion as her mother's pearls at her throat, the one piece of jewelry she'd kept out. You look pretty, Miss Sarah, Emma said, then caught herself. I mean Aunt Catherine. Today after the ceremony you can call me Mama if you'd like, Catherine said softly, but only if you want to. Reverend Thompson arrived at noon along with the Pattersons from the neighboring ranch and Sheriff Tucker with his wife. Jake had sent word to Tucker about Blackwood's threats, and the sheriff's presence was both witness and warning. The ceremony was held in the main room. Sunlight streaming through the windows Catherine had cleaned until they sparkled. The children stood as witnesses, Thomas holding the rings Jake had bought in town months ago when he'd first decided to find a wife. Do you, Jacob Andrew Morrison, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? Reverend Thompson intoned. I do. Do you, Catherine? The Reverend paused, looking at his notes. Sarah Hamilton, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Catherine's voice was steady. I do. The rings were exchanged. Simple gold bands, nothing fancy. When the Reverend pronounced them man and wife, Jake leaned in for the traditional kiss, keeping it brief and proper. But even that small touch sent an unexpected warmth through him. Mary chose that moment to tug on Catherine's skirt. Mama now. Yes, sweetheart, Mama now. The small gathering shared a wedding lunch that Catherine had somehow managed to prepare despite everything. Ham from the smokehouse, potatoes and vegetables, fresh bread, and 2 pies. Apple and cherry because Thomas had specifically requested both. Sheriff Tucker pulled Jake aside after the meal. Heard you had some trouble with an Eastern gentleman. Charles Blackwood claims Catherine owes him something. Claims don't mean much without proof, and a man's wife is under his protection by law. You have trouble, you send word. The whole county will ride if needed. Appreciate it, Sheriff. As the guests prepared to leave, dust appeared on the horizon. Jake tensed, but it was only a single rider moving at an easy pace. As the figure grew closer, Jake recognized Sam Wilson, who worked for the telegraph office in town. Mr. Morrison got an urgent telegram for you. Jake took the paper, reading quickly. His expression must have changed because Catherine appeared at his elbow. What is it? He handed her the telegram. It was from a law firm in Boston. Theodore Hamilton deceased. Stop debts died with him. Stop contracts signed under duress invalid. Stop Blackwood under investigation fraud. Stop congratulations, your marriage. Stop will send details. Stop Jenkins and Associates. Catherine's legs seemed to give out. Jake caught her, supporting her to a chair. My father, he's dead. When did you last have contact? Jake asked gently. 3 months ago, the night I left. He was drunk, raging about how I'd ruined everything by refusing Blackwood. Sam Wilson cleared his throat. There's more, Mrs. Morrison. This came to address to Miss Catherine Hamilton, care of Mr. Morrison. The second telegram was from a different source. Catherine, stop. Your father took his own life. Stop, letter left explaining Blackwood manipulation. Stop, authorities searching for Blackwood. Stop, you are free. Stop, your loving cousin Margaret. Catherine broke down completely. Jake dismissed the guests as quickly as politeness allowed, then gathered his wife, his wife, into his arms as she sobbed. The children clustered around, patting her awkwardly, offering the simple comfort of their presence. "The bad man can't hurt you now," Emma said solemnly. "You're our mama, and we won't let him." But Jake knew better. Men like Blackwood didn't give up easily, especially when cornered. The investigation might make him desperate, dangerous. They'd need to be ready. That night after the children were asleep, Jake and Catherine sat before the fire. She'd told him everything about her father's descent into gambling, Blackwood's gradual takeover of their lives, the threats and manipulations. "He had my father so tangled in debt and fear he would have sold his soul," Catherine said. "Selling his daughter was easier. It's not your fault. I could have stayed, fought, and ended up in an asylum or worse. You survived. That took courage." Catherine looked at him with those green eyes that seemed to see straight through to his soul. "Why did you really go through with it? The marriage, you could have sent me away." Jake was quiet for a long moment, watching the flames dance. "My first wife, Martha, used to say that sometimes God sends us what we need, not what we expect. I advertised for a simple solution to a practical problem. Instead, I got a woman with courage, intelligence, and a fierce love for children she'd just met. Maybe the circumstances weren't ideal, but the result?" He trailed off, unsure how to finish. Catherine reached over and took his hand. "I know we agreed this was a practical arrangement, but Jake, I want you to know, I'll be a true wife to you in every way you'll allow." The implication hung in the air between them. They'd not discussed the intimate aspects of marriage, both assuming it would be a partnership in name only. "Catherine, you don't owe me. I know what I owe and don't owe. I'm talking about what I want.